Things got interesting when Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo gave their takes on the upcoming Ian Garry versus Carlos Prattes matchup at UFC Kansas City. Usman sees Prattes as a dangerous finisher, while Cejudo raised the red flag most fighters don't deal with. Prattes smokes cigarettes daily, and this is a 5-rounder.
Yeah, it depends, bro. If I go party, maybe 2 or 3 packs. Like normal day, not really. Maybe 10, 15 cigarettes. Jesus. Okay. If you're worrying about something, maybe 1 pack, 2 packs.
Usman, on the other hand, is riding with Prattes, praising his finishing ability and raw confidence.
Is that he's willing to do what it takes to win the fight, even if it's not pretty. He's willing to do what it takes to go out and try to get that victory. Now, for a guy like Carlos Prattes, I just, you don't know unless you don't know. You don't know what you don't know yet. And my man right now is just riding high on it. He's coming in, got that cig on him, bumping that Ross on him. You know what I mean? Carlos Prattes don't care. And I'm riding with him, man. I mean, coming into the UFC, 4 fights, all stoppages, no fight getting out of the second round. I like this fight for Carlos Prattes. I think if Carlos Prattes is able to go out there and discourage Ian Garry with his shots, I mean, both guys are going to strike. Both guys are going to kick. Ian Garry is very, very good with those low kicks and basically trying to keep the range here. So it's going to be interesting to watch what Carlos Prattes is going to do, how he's going to approach it to try to discourage Ian Garry from wanting to potentially change levels.
And it's 5 rounds, Kamaru.
Exactly.
You want to put a bet on this? We'll think of something. But I will say this, Kamaru, those cigs may catch up, dude. Those cigs.
Hey,
I don't know,
chill out.
5-round fight.
Carlos Prattes is in the building. Listen, don't worry about the shit. He's straight. He's straight out here.
This one's going to be wild. And the question is whether Prattes' power or cardio gives first. But that wasn't even the wildest moment of the week. Lupita Godinez just went viral after admitting she almost had an accident mid-fight at UFC Mexico. Speaking with Inside Fighting, she broke down how she was feeling sick leading into the bout and still fought through it. She got the unanimous decision win over Julia Palastri, but says the biggest challenge wasn't her opponent. It was surviving each round without disaster. Respect for the grit. Meanwhile, an old rivalry reignited online. Michael Bisping didn't hold back on Ariel Helwani last week, calling him a head and accusing him of manufacturing beef between fighters for relevance.
He's a total kid. He's definitely up there as well. See, I don't think about him. I was thinking about fighters. All he does is try and manufacture beef with other fighters, so it makes him look good and it keeps him current. All he does is hate on the UFC. That's like his whole MO.
Ariel fired back with a long response, more emotional than angry. He says he felt sad seeing what Bisping has become.
My takeaway wasn't feeling mad, angry. Sometimes I see the clip. I want to come on here, 10-7, hit him up, all this stuff. I'll even ask the guys, should I answer? Should I not? Should I respond? This and that. They'll say one thing. I'll ignore it. I'll come on. I'll do it. That never happened. That never happened as well. My takeaway was I felt really sad for Michael Bisping. I felt really sad for Michael Bisping because I can't imagine what it would be like to have once been a bad boy, to have once been a rule breaker, to have once been a pioneer, a trailblazer, a guy who marches to the beat of his own drum, to be that guy who did whatever the hell he wanted and didn't kowtow, didn't shill, was a rebel. That's who Michael Bisping was. If you watched him in the early days, 06, 07, 08, 09, that's who he was. The British bad boy, the shaved head, spits on your corner, tells you what he thinks of you, doesn't hold back, no filter. That's exactly who he was. And the guy that I was watching in that clip in particular, and the guy that we have seen over the past year or so, what he has morphed into, what he has turned into, is the polar opposite of that guy. And he knows this, and he knows that that guy once existed, and he has to look at himself in the mirror each and every day and pretend like he is still that guy, and pretend perhaps like that guy never existed when he knows that he has morphed into this zombie, this shill, this guy who has had his brain infected by this virus, all because he wants someone to be like, good on you, mate. Here's $5,000 to call the next Apex card, and please do your best to put over how great all of this is. And if you do a good job, we'll pat you on the head and give you the next big slap fighting gig at the Fontainebleau. This is what he is striving for. He is striving for someone to one day say, like, thank you for doing that. Thank you for saying that about big, bad, ugly Ariel Helwani, so that maybe one day he could get on that, I don't know, that fight night in Austin, Texas. And then maybe just one day, if something happens to DC and if something happens to Rogan and if something happens to Dominic Cruz, he can maybe get that pay-per-view all to get there. And that's exactly what he's become. He's become the guy who will try to do anything in his power to curry favor with his bosses, as much as he doesn't want to admit that, just so that he can get that opportunity, that big break, to call that big fight at your local Apex, your local arena in some random place in America. And so he has to turn to this. He has to become this. And that's a bummer, because I remember the old guy, and the old guy was actually a really good friend, and all of a sudden he just changed.
It's personal now, and this feud has no octagon to settle it in. But on the fight front, Sean O'Malley is back with some big news. Sean O'Malley just returned to the Timbo Sugar Show and revealed he was dealing with a serious groin injury going into his first fight with Merab Dvalishvili.
Dude, I am so excited for this fight. Sugar Shane versus Merab 2 is happening, and I don't think people are going to be too happy about it. My life has completely changed over the last year. Last time I fought him, I was 29. Mm-hmm. I'm 30 now. I'm a grown man. I have hair on my chest now. I quit smoking weed, too. I haven't gamed either. I quit gaming. Yeah, I also haven't yeehooed once this year.
Jade the Peen?
Haven't Jade the Peen once this year.
Not once.
Not once this whole year. My groin kept me up at night because I tore my labrum 10 weeks before the fight, which is what we're at from the fight right now. I tore my groin, my labrum, and I was having serious groin pain. It was just it wasn't ideal. I was able to train, I was able to tough through it, but obviously it's not ideal to go into a fight, especially against a murderer. Well, not necessarily a murderer, but a stud like Merab, an absolute just machine. His nickname is the Machine for a reason. But all my journal entries were every single day. I was just like updating on my groin. My groin feels decent today, blah, blah, blah. My groin hurts real bad today. And I was like thinking about how good I feel right now. I was like, oh, I don't want to jinx it. But dude, if I can just keep this pace up, how we've been able to train these last few weeks all the way up into the fight, I'm going to be 70% better than I was in that first fight. I'm going to be significantly more mobile, agile, better shape. I'm going to fight at my full potential. Whereas that last fight, I was very happy with how I was able to perform considering how I felt. It wasn't ideal, the outcome, I didn't win, but I also think I wasn't supposed to win. This rematch was supposed.
He now claims he'll be 70% better for the UFC 316 rematch. He's quit weed, quit gaming, and says he's feeling like a totally different version of himself. Jorge Masvidal says he's planning a UFC return, and he wants Leon Edwards. Michael Bisping reacted on his podcast, saying he'd watch it, but warned that for Leon, accepting that fight might kill his title hopes.
I'm a fan of Masvidal. I'm an admirer. I love the attitude. I love everything he brings to the table. You know, even the 3-piece in the shoulder, that's just who he is, you know, and it's been well documented over the years. I had some run-ins as well. He is that guy. He's not a fake. He's not, for want of a better description, a Colby Covington, like we were saying before, right? And I'm not trying to start with Colby. He is who he is. He's authentic. However, he is 40 years old, hasn't fought in the UFC for 2 years, and he has lost 4 in a row. There is the storyline there, but I feel like for Leon, and by the way, I would pay to watch the matchup. I'm just saying for Leon, he probably wants something bigger. And for Leon to accept that fight would be kind of accepting that, hey, I'm out of the title hunt situation.
Yeah, I see that point of view as well. And that probably will be what makes him reluctant to do it. But I would say that he's got to think like, listen, you're also, and even though they were all very high level guys, you are also on a streak right now, you know, where you've taken a couple losses to the top guys. And what better way to just get yourself back and get the confidence if, in fact, you do still have that desire to fight and be the best? Just go get a fun win.
The backstory is there. The beef is real. But does it make sense competitively? We'll see if Leon bites. And speaking of beefs, two of the most controversial talkers in MMA are circling each other. Sean Strickland went off on Colby Covington, calling him a fraud and trashing his gimmick. It's like watching the ugly girl get rejected at a party. It's cringy, man. Colby fired back via submission radio, saying he's open to the fight and has zero fear. He's just a cardio kickboxer. I'll put him on his ass. Covington even said he'd move up to middleweight to make it happen. This one feels like it's getting closer. And finally, someone asked Gaethje the most ridiculous question of the week. While taping his podcast, Daniel Cormier called Justin Gaethje live on air to ask one question. Can Conor McGregor really become president of Ireland? Gaethje didn't skip a beat.
Justin.
Uh-oh.
Yo. Hey, I'm doing my show real quick. We've been asking real quick. Is Conor going to become the president of Ireland?
Daniel, stop calling me for this dumb.
No, Big Justin. I was calling you before I started, and then Ben and I started talking about fighting, and then I was telling Ben that I think you're going to get a title fight next and all this, but I figured, well, I'll answer, and since we're on that topic, I'm just asking you, is he going to be the president of Ireland?
Terrible question.
Terrible question.
Ask Justin if he would be okay being governed by Conor McGregor.
He said he doesn't know about Ireland, Ben, and he doesn't care. This is Justin Gaethje.
Baby.
He said America, baby.